Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Python tutorial. In this one we're going to be covering classes and object-oriented programming, and I'm going to teach it assuming that you've never seen it before. If you have, then this might not be the video for you, but anyway, let's get into it. So, normally in Python, or coding in general so far, assuming you've been following my tutorials, you just have simple code that you either run here, so like print hello, whatever, or you have functions that get ran at certain times rather than straight away, so you'll have like def hello, print hello, whoops, I am coding wrong here, print hello, and then down here somewhere you'll run hello. I keep using semicolons, and then obviously it runs hello. Anyway, this time we're going to be using a special kind of function, which isn't a function, I guess, which is called a class, and a class is a template, simply put. You run a class, you give it information, and it basically spits out, it does stuff with the parameters you put in for that template. And the best way to explain this is by showing you. But let's say you've seen any of my Unity tutorials, and you want to, every script you make in Unity is a class, and therefore you can put it, so for example, you make a movement script on an enemy that has variables, has functions that are on the enemy, and then you make multiple enemies and you use the enemies as templates. They use the move script, so it can be applied to all enemies and it does the same thing depending on the enemy. And this is kind of the same, but it's not for a video game, it's for just information in general. And I'm going to give you an example as to why you would use it. So normally to define a function you put def for define, but for classes, if you hadn't guessed, we use class, and it goes blue. And then we pick a name for our class. Now we're going to be making something where, let's say you're going to a new school and the school system, the school's putting you on the system, and they know your name and they want to give you an email. Now no one wants to sit there typing out every student's name and then their email and then handing you the email. You can obviously automate things, which is what coding's for. So we're going to have a class student. Now the class student that we've made, we can run this class, give it parameters, and then it will give us other outputs, and I'll show you why. So first of all, we can make functions inside of classes. So we're going to make a function inside the class called init, which is for initialize, and you have to do this. It's, as it says, most basic type, and basically this is oops, okay, that gives you, just ignore that. We don't want these parameters that it gave us. Okay, so here we were. We've got a function called init, which is a pre-made function. It's going to get run when we use the class, and it's going to take in some parameters. Now it always takes in self. Self just is referring to the class itself, comma, and then any parameters that we want. Now what are we going to pass in when we have a new student, for example? So we're going to have a first name. So first name. We're going to have a last name. We're going to have, what else could we have? We could have age. For now, we'll leave it like that. So this is all the information we get. So let's say you've signed up for a school, you've got a sheet, you're filling your personal information, you give it to the school. They can enter it into a pre-made program, and then it can do all the things for you. And we're making the program that does that. Now, when it's initialized and we take in all these things, we want to... When you're using classes in, for example, JavaScript, you do this dot. In Python, you use self dot. It's just different syntax. So self dot always refers to the class itself, or the thing we're making in the class, the template. So self dot first name equals first name basically means that this thing we're making with the template, its first name is the same as the first name we're taking in from the parameter. Now the cool thing is, can we use or in Python? Yeah, it's or in Python. If we put an or and someone didn't enter a first name into the parameter box, it would use this alternative as the name. Now obviously for names you always need a name. Everyone's going to have a first and last name, so this won't be the case. But let's say there was some other information which was optional. You could have a default value after the or. So what it does is it checks, is this true? If this is true, then that's what it gets set to. And then you can have ors. So if it's null, if it doesn't exist, if there is no first name that's been passed in, it'll set it equal to a default value. But as I said, we don't really want that for this. So let's also do self dot last name equals last name that we get passed in. And then for now, we'll do self.age equals age. That seems pretty simple. Now what we can do is to quickly show how this is working is we can make a new student. So let's say every time a student gets added to the school, we're going to, let's think. Well, we're going to have a variable per student that gets saved to a database. We're not going to bother doing databases or anything. So what we can do is we can pretend, so our first student is going to be called student underscore 001 maybe. Obviously you do as many O's as you think there are going to be people, so if you think there's going to be thousands of people, you go for 4 O's. For now we'll just do 3. We're not going to get more than a few anyway. So student 001 equals, and then run the class student, and then we pass in, as it says here, it tells you the variables you need: first name, last name, age. So we'll do me, so Nathan Farah, I can't type, and 17. Okay, so now I have made this variable has all the information in the class for me. So now that it exists, if I print student 01, so obviously every student's going to have an ID, it's going to print, okay, yeah. So we've not told it specifically what to print, we've just told it to print the class. So it's actually telling us student object, it's not really giving us any information we need. If we put student01 dot first name, then I run it, it's just going to tell me Nathan. And same for Farah. Like, it's pretty useless because we've told it Nathan Farah 17. All we can get back at the moment is Nathan Farah or 17. So what do we want to do? We want to make more functions inside the student class for us to be able to use. Now, one really useful thing that I said is when you sign up for a school, you'll get a school email. Like, every school does that as far as I know. So we can have, well, we don't even need a function for this actually. We can just do it here. So we can have self.email. Now, one thing to note is that these variables here, first name, last name, age, email, these do not have to be the same as the parameters that get passed in. Obviously, if you've named them well, you might as well call them the same thing because age is only going to be called age and last name is only going to be last name. But as a rule, you don't have to call them the same thing. And obviously, self.email isn't a parameter that exists. It's just a variable we've made inside the class. And we're going to set it equal to, and this is where we form an email. So let's say for our email, at my school, it's like, for Nathan Farah, it'd be N Farah. I'm just going to go for the first name, then the second name, and then like at the school. So we'll do first name, and then because it has a capital and emails don't have capitals, we'll do dot lower. Okay, so that just gets Nathan. Then we're going to add that to a dot because emails have dots. Nathan dot Farah, yeah. And then we'll add the last name dot lower. So the capital F in Farah goes down to a small f. So we've got Nathan dot Farah plus, and then at fakeschool.com. And now, if I decide to print the email, which didn't exist earlier, I've not given it an email, it gives me an email, nathan.farah@fakeschool.com. So just from using the class and passing in some information about me, it's made me my own email, which, as you can imagine, for a school, that's very, very useful. Now, you could do much more with this once you've got your student thing. We can make functions. So, like, we've given it a first name and a last name, but let's say at some point you want to get a student's full name. So what we can do is, we could do... we won't bother with middle names actually. We'll make a thing called full name, and this takes in self. And self just means it takes in. We have all the variables for ourselves right now, so we can use our first name, last name, age, or email in this function. Now we're going to get it to return. I'm going to show you some formatting now because. Formatting I haven't covered yet. It's not that important, though it's very useful. And how it works is you can, instead of writing, what I could do is I could do a self.first plus self.last and then return that. But there will be times when you don't want to do this, and I'm going to show you now. So when we run this function full name, we expect to get back the full name. So what we can do is we can do this. Okay. Now what this means is it's a string, but these squiggly brackets don't get used as squiggly brackets. They are like kind of placeholders. So it means that we're going to put something inside this first one, and then there's a space, and we're going to put something inside here. So if you hadn't guessed, our first name is going to go inside here, and our last name is going to go inside here, and there's going to be a gap in between, so it doesn't say Nathan Farrer as one word, it says Nathan space Farrer. And the way you do that is after writing the string layout like this with the placeholders, you put .format. And then now, in the format, it takes 2 parameters because we've got 2 squiggly brackets. So what do I want inside the first squiggly brackets is the first parameter, so self.first. So that will, self.firstname will go in the first thing, the first squiggly brackets, and then self.lastname will go in the last one. Now, if I run print student01 dot full name, and obviously you have to do the parameter brackets because it's a function inside of there. It now returns my full name like this, because what it's done is these are placeholders obviously, and if I had a middle name and if I had a middle name, I would, well, I do have one, but not maybe. I could add a middle name feature in this where, like, if they have one, give it to them, and if they don't, then don't. If I added this triple bracket now, if I run it, it probably won't work. Yep, errors. Because it wants 3 parameters, but we've only given it 2. So if you did want to have a third one, you would have to have cases for, like, only do this if there is a middle name, else just don't. Now stop the debugging. I'm trying to think, what else do we want in this video, because I've shown you the basics of classes. There's one other thing I can show you is, let's say we had an example in class once, that's not meant to be a pun, where, well, first of all, you can make classes of other classes, you can inherit them. So if you didn't want to type out, like, let's say you had a different kind of student, and I don't know why, let's say you have student, and then in the UK we have sixth form, and a sixth former is going to be a student, right? It's going to have all of this, you know, first name, last name, age, email. But let's say the sixth former had extra stuff, like, so class, how am I going to write this, like sixth former, and inside the brackets, inside the parameters, I left this blank because it's a class. If we're inheriting from a different class, inside the bracket you put that class, so student. And right now, this is the exact same as the other one. So if I write pass, what pass does, it basically means, it's the same as, it means nothing. It doesn't run anything. Whoops, don't need that. Sorry. Pass kind of acts as placeholder code that doesn't do anything. Because if I left this blank, it would read on to this as part of the function, as part of the class, which it isn't. So this kind of just acts as like a safety net. Now, if I just put student1 equals sixth former, this should do the exact same thing. As you see, it all works, which is quite weird because we're telling it to print the .email and .full name of a sixth former, but there is no code inside the sixth former class because it's inheriting student, which means it already has all of this inside of it. It just doesn't need to show. So what that means I can do is I can override stuff. So if I wrote def in it and put more in here, it means that I've now basically ignored this part. The full name part will still work, but the initialize thing will be changed because I've made my own custom one for a sixth former. So like, let's say, well, obviously we can copy all this and I can put in here. And there we go. So let's say a sixth former has a first name, a last name, and age, and what else could they have? They could have, I honestly don't know what I could put in here. Well, let's just, for the sake of it, let's just put like favorite food. Don't know why you would put that in there, but I needed something off the top of my head to put in. And let's say we'll just put it here like self dot food, just to show you that you don't have to call it the same, is equal to favorite food. Now, after age in the parameter, it takes in a favorite food, which I can just put as like, I don't know, pizza, for example. And then now I can still do the email and the full name. It still all works, but we've got a specialized initialize so that we can call full name without it being in here, but if we call initialize, we actually now have a favorite food for a sixth former. Whereas if I ran like student instead here, you'll notice it won't work because we've given it a parameter that it doesn't need. There's an error. So finally, we'll do 6 former, and then we'll print there. We'll do print. Well, let's make a custom function as well. That would help. So def nice food, and then it takes in self because it wants to know the information about self, and we could have it return. Could have it return self dot food plus is my now if we go print student01 dot nice food, fingers crossed, pizza is okay. Wait 1 sec. Sorry. Space here. Pizza is my favorite food too. There we go. So here's the class. I'll leave it on screen. You'll see it. I think I've covered everything you need to know. So this is how we make a class. This is how we make a class by inheriting another class. So we don't have to rewrite everything. A sixth former is a kind of student. That's why student is the base class, and this is a kind of student. Okay, makes sense. Hopefully, if it doesn't, please ask anything in the comments that you need to know. This is how we create something from a class. It's just a variable which is equal to the class, and it takes in some parameters which we define here. But for sixth former, you need an extra thing, because that's the reason why I've put this all out, is because it's different from a normal student. And we can call full name and nice food from sixth former, but we can't call nice food from student because it doesn't exist here. So anyway, I hope it all made sense. Also, yeah, when you're printing stuff or getting stuff, you can refer to the variable dot, and then if it's a function, the name of the function parameters, and if it's just a variable, it's just the variable name. But anyway, sorry if I was too fast there, but I think that was simple enough. If there is anything you're unsure about, just ask in the comments below. If you want to know more, or you want to join our Discord, in the description I'll have the link. We're slowly getting more and more members as the channel's growing. If you want to see more of either Python, Unity, C++, anything, just put it in the comments below, subscribe, like those videos to show which ones are more popular, so I know what to make more videos on. But yeah, in general, everything went well. I hope everything was understood. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.